Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for, what are we, the 14th day of October 2021. Well, I hope everybody had a good week so far. If this is your first time here, welcome. I kind of go over what we did on Monday on Thursdays, just to see if we can hook the two readings together, which typically we can. I don't know why my calendar just popped up, but let's get rid of that so I can actually see what I'm doing here. On Monday, the reading illustrated the overall polarity we experience between higher self and the expression or influence of the reactive ego, whether it was referring to the runes or to the cards. It all seemed to align that way. The challenge was to have the integrity to express ourselves on behalf of others. And when we do so, we derive benefit, by being able to see the greater picture and not just what involves us. But it seemed like there was polarity in various forms, either masculine or feminine. Let me see, I wrote that stuff down here. With the lovers and strength and the Nine of Swords were the initial three cards of influence. Ewaz and Tristitia were the runes, and there's polarity there. Higher self-thinking with Ewaz versus the lower ego of Tristitia, becoming so caught up in grief and sorrow that we can't really... And really what that means is there's a self-focus there, which is ego, it's reactive. Whereas Ewaz was the intuitive bond we share with one another. So we'll see what the reading today does, if it continues along those lines of talking about polarity. We can talk about, the projective or masculine versus the receptive or feminine polarities all we want to, but I think realistically the true polarity that exists is the one between the soul and then the soul's expression into form, which becomes then at times the reactive ego, if you don't continually remember that this is just, these are just experiences that we're playing out. We really don't have any and shouldn't have any real emotional investment in any of it, other than, the fact that we do. That's the influence of the personality or ego side of self. And we get caught up. We get caught up in the visual. We get caught up in the interactive. We make all kinds of judgments. And instead of just looking at dispassionately at everything, but then on the other hand, maybe if that's all we did here, then maybe there'd be no reason to even have physical forms. So anyhow, let's go ahead. I think I've shuffled enough. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Elder Futhark rune and see what we have for that today. Wow, it just feels like there's just a ton and a half of runes in here. Well, that's because, let me go ahead and I stuck all of these others in this bag instead of in the other. Oh yeah, I did. It's like I've got this massive handful of runes. It's like, what is going on? I've got both the Rowan set and the Hawthorne set in here together. I just grabbed the wrong bag and threw the other ones in with this. So let me get those out and put that over there. Oops, there's one. Make sure I have everything here. I think I do. Let's go. God, it still feels like there's too many runes in the bag. Well, let's just see what happens here. If I pull out one from the other bag, then I'll put it down and try again. We have Nathis for today. That's the one of the Norn runes. There's three. There's Hagalaz, there's Isa, and there's Nathis. Nathis is the rune of the future. And it's... we'll just set that down for now and get ready and do the other. It's the rune of the Norn rune of the future, and so what it does is it describes the friction within, basically to manifest. It controls the will, basically. from a higher self perspective. Let's see what we've got here. Well, we've got, let's see, we had Tristitia on Monday. We've got Emissio today. Emissio is loss, but the complement of it is acquisitio. So you're looking at, with acquisitio, increase and emissio, in decrease. So you can look at it that way. Let's see, that's acquisitio. Where is emissio? There's emissio. So Tristitia is more of an emotional loss than emissio is. So maybe we are experiencing a decrease in the expression of will, maybe in a way that's less less ego-based, maybe. I kind of look at the geomancy runes. Geomancy has to do with earth, and so therefore there's various forms. The geomancy runes are one. Pendulums are another example of integrating with the earth energies. And so if you were to look at that again as polarity, the higher self versus the ego polarity, then you could then say there's a decrease maybe in the ego's effect on controlling our will maybe today. So, one last thing. I did a rune divination yesterday on the forecast, and I went ahead and I did a video of it, and I wrote it up a little bit more than what was on the blog. And that's, the whole thing is over there on the Patreon page. Otherwise, you can see the video here, either here on YouTube, or you can see it on the side panel of the blog over at Stepping Aside, and I'm steppingaside.com. Oh, and links are below the video here. So let's just shuffle a little bit more and see what we have. Let me get rid of these. Yeah, it still feels like there's more runes in that bag than there's supposed to be. So. Well, I don't know. Maybe I didn't have my light on when I was doing things. And I grabbed the wrong bag and stuck all of them in there. So I wanted ones that people could see just a little bit better when I did that rune divination on video. So I used the Hawthorne ones, which are a little bit, they're a little more, you can see them a little bit better, you see, than you can the Rowan ones. They're a little darker. So not any divination reason, just for clarity, maybe visual clarity. Let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards of influence and see what we have. And again, if this is your first time here, typically speaking, the 3rd card is usually the outcome card, if there's going to be one, but I don't generally look at them that way, so I just look at them as cards of influence. Well, we have the Knight of Pentacles, the 10 of Swords, and the 8 of Cups. Now, the Knights are, let me just set those over there. The Knights are very, they're dramatic, they're passionate, they're catalytic, they are there in service to others, basically. But the Knight of Pentacles is going to be somebody who is offering security to others. You can see he's holding he's on a very strong looking horse, isn't he? Black horse. His visor's up, so he's not in battle. And it's almost like he's sitting up, and I don't know. To me, this sort of where this is actually the author's or the artist's signature there, but I believe. But basically, this always gives me the feeling of he's sitting up above everything, up above the kingdom. And so he's being watchful, he's dependable, he's reliable, he's trustworthy. But it just feels to me like this knight offers others some security. Now, there's a lot of, generally speaking, with pentacles, that's the earth element. So you're talking about material security, physical security, all of that. But I think that and we might even be able to put him at the end of the reading, but I think we'll just leave him where it is. It doesn't really matter. But we can think about security in a variety of ways, and I think the next 2 cards will make it clear why I'm saying that. Here we have the 10 of Swords. And this is actually a very positive card. You see the knight lifting. 10 is an interesting number. It's very similar in its effect to Degas. Since that's one of the runes I pulled out of my bag, I'll just show you that. It's basically, you see the X in the middle, and that's the Roman numeral 10. But with Degas, it's like you have one period ending and another beginning, and that's realistically what the 10 is. If you reduce it to 1, then it becomes new beginnings. But the 10 really shows that one period is ending and another is beginning. Here, all the swords have pierced the back of the individual lying on the ground. Now, you don't see the sun, but you see the gold light right here, the golden sky, which indicates that that the rays of the sun are being experienced as the night sky lifts. We see the water is calm. We see mountains in the background, but you've got this area of then and now, in a sense. You've got this darker line right here of demarcation, but you could also say this part here represents the same, where we've gone as far as we can go. We've let go in the 9. We woke up from all of the and we put in order all the perceptions that were causing us such grief and drama, and then now we've just let them all go. And that has to do with the air element with swords. That's the air element. So that's our mental faculties. That's intelligence, it's interaction, it's communication, it's justice, it's balance. And here with the 8 of Cups, we're walking away from emotions that no longer serve. So not only have we put in place, or put in their place the perceptions that no longer serve, we're also doing the same thing with emotions. And it's almost like he's either taken the 9th cup with him, or he represents the 9th cup. But this is the 8. This is actually the 8 of Cups. But he's gathered his emotions together as well, and he's placed them in order. And he's walking away from those that are just not working for him any longer. And again, as with seeing the mountains in the background here, which indicate challenges, there may be challenges ahead. You see the rocks here in his path, illustrating the same. Numerology-wise, for the first 3 cards, we have a 9, and so again, that's endings and completion. So I think that how we're viewing security perhaps has changed, and given that he seems to be up higher than the rest of the town or village or whatever that he's sort of guarding there. He's standing guard, basically. I mean, he's very strong. He's very dependable. He's very reliable. Need more tea. I've started putting red pepper in my herbal teas to help wake things up and release all the stuff, and get things flowing again. It's a really good thing to do, especially if you're suffering from any damp conditions. You've got slushy throat, or a bunch of mucus, or if you've got allergies or things like that. It helps release all of that and get it flowing and to where you can get rid of it. But I think it's good to do, especially coming into the winter. You've spent all summer, being out in the garden and all of that, pollens and all kinds of things you've been affected by. And so it's kind of nice going into the winter as things start to slow down to keep things flowing. You know what I mean? So anyway. But I think that, again, this is reinforcing Monday's reading with the idea of controlling the ego's perception, and we're having the strength to do that. And I think that it does. I think when you allow higher self to come in and inform all of that, you really are in a different level of strength, a different level of protection, a different level of reliability, that you can trust you can trust your perceptions in a more realistic way if ego is not coming in and allowing all the reaction and the judgment. So that's kind of interesting. So it looks like we are aligning with that. Oops. Hang on. The old adage is you need to pay attention to the card that drops on the floor. That's death. We'll put that at the bottom of the pile. Death is just transformation. So again, maybe we're transforming our perceptions and our emotions in a way that make more sense, that are a little more dependable, a little more reliable, a little more focused on truth instead of a higher truth, instead of the lower so-called truth of the ego. Let's see what the challenge card is. We'll take the 13th one for the challenge and the benefit cards. I do that for randomness sake. I was born on the 13th, so my birthday was yesterday. And so we, and plus I everything seems to happen to me in 13s. So here we have the Queen of Swords. Here we have the Queen of Swords as the challenge card. Now, my favorite queen is in the Thoth deck, where she's reclining on her throne up in the clouds. She's got a sword in one hand and a severed head in another. So that, to me, now the Thoth deck is really my favorite deck. Although I like the more pagan-oriented decks. The Wildwood is incredible. So is Druidcraft, but the Wildwood is just enormously incredible. I really love that one. But the Thoth deck affects me in ways that were unexpected, and so whenever I really, really need to know something, I look at it. I wonder if I can just find the Queen really quickly here. But there's just nothing like the Queen in this deck. And let's see, maybe she's up at the top here. I just think that the colors and the way that Lady Frida Harris defined everything was just really incredible. But I have to tell you, oh, here she is. This is my favorite expression of the Queen of Swords. So, she's holding the head of the lion over here. And she's taken the head. All right. Listen, the queens don't suffer fools gladly, as they say, anyway. All right. But for the Queen of Swords, it's sort of an off with your head moment. And if you're gonna be doing things or lying to her or acting in ways that are just not, they're deceptive. She's the queen that's going to cut through the crap of everything and see the truth. Again, with the swords, you see the sword angling up towards spirit. It's mostly up and down. It's mostly straight up and down. And she's offering balance and justice is what she's doing. She's reaching her one hand out, and it's like, okay, here's how it's going to be. So the challenge then internally is to not deceive yourself into thinking that strength is derived through ego. Okay. So that's why. So I just love the Queen, and especially the Queen of Swords. It's kind of it's really the although they say that the Queen of Wands is also a talented witch, so is the Queen of Swords. Really, it's really about taking no prisoners and just being done with crap and nonsense. But in this case, it has to be with yourself. And are you going to let go of things that no longer serve? Are you going to let it all end and focus your attention on the information gained from spirit and from higher self-awareness? So in this case, instead of cutting through the nonsense of others, are you going to cut through your own nonsense and remain strong like the Knight of Pentacles in this decision to move on from things that really don't benefit you or don't benefit the collective you? And by the collective you, I mean you, and that it's the self and the other side of self. Everything we see around us reflects the other side of self. It's just there to mirror back. Those experiences are just there to mirror back whatever it is you're here to learn about. The overall theme that you choose while in form. So let's take a look at the benefit card. So the benefit of not allowing yourself to slip back into old habits and patterns. The benefit is you're not deceiving yourself. The moon. The moon is a 9 energy. Let's see which is we have a 9 energy for the first 3 cards. You add them together, that's 18. Again, it's a 9 energy. So we're really letting go of ego here. The moon is about deception. It's about dreams, emotions, cycles, rebirth, transformation. You see the lobster coming out of the pond there, while 2 dogs are barking, light and dark, shadow side of self and spirit, receptive, projective, feminine, masculine. But again, that's on the level of form. When you're talking about the masculine and feminine polarities, balancing those, that's actually the form level or physical form level. The other one that I think is really more important, again, is the polarity between spirit and ego, between the soul itself and its expression into form. Again, you see balance here with the 2 towers. The moon isn't happy. You can see right up here at the very top of the mountains, you can see a split right there, and it's a pathway. It's not blue, so it's not feeding the pond, but it splits us between the 2 polarities. So this is also awakening and intuition versus illusion. The moon can veil. And so in that regard, it's illusory. But again, it can be about change. And the change that we're experiencing right now with letting go of perceptions and emotions that aren't serving us, that are more ego-based, more reactive-based. And then a missio then would be the idea of letting all that go, a decrease in that. And with Nathis controlling the expression of will from the standpoint of spirit. So we did it, didn't we? I love it when one reading really flows well into another. Some don't flow as well, but typically they do. Once in a blue moon, we'll get one that really has nothing to do with the other. So it means that we've actually finished what we've been working on Monday's reading, and we're moving into another place, another issue to deal with maybe. But today I don't think so. I think that this really harmonizes well with Monday's reading. Again, where we're putting to rest the ego's influence and understanding the deceptive aspects of that, and to not deceive ourselves into thinking, and because that's what the ego will do, it'll deceive us into thinking that really we're on the right path when we're not. And as you can see with the 8, in a sense, we really are pursuing a new path. So if you wanted to include this as an aspect of the outcome, you could do that as well, I think, with this reading, that we're heading out on a new path. And it might be challenging. I mean, of course, change always is, but we have but when we invoke Nathis, we have the friction within. We have the friction within to control that will, to control the ego's expression of the will, and bring spirit into it, and to say no. And essentially we're transmuting ego into spirit when we give our focus solely into spirit, and we sort of ignore the little knock at the door going, hey, remember me? It's like, well, yeah, I do, but you got me into a lot of trouble, so now we're going to look at this from a broader perspective, and so we can really understand the greater issues at hand, and we can understand the greater forces at work that are, generally speaking, Right now there's a tremendous amount of change going on. A lot of argument, a lot of violence, a lot of lying that's going on by the powers of the ego that want to stay in control of how we, in other words, how we interact with one another, but how we also keep the powers of the ego in control. When we don't use discernment to understand the garbage that's being thrown at us, when we start believing conspiracy and lies that are put there to actually distract us from what the real truth is, then we can get really caught up, I think, in a lot of damaging kinds of thought patterns. And I think that that's what's being expressed right now. And the strength of the Knight of Pentacles really says we've got to get above all of that. We've got to see this from a level of protection that protects spirit over ego, a higher level of values and principles, instead of those that for some reason can't seem to see that they're being manipulated, in a sense, by a master puppeteer. And so you have to decide, do I give myself over to that individual or group of individuals who really are only doing this for their own power and glory and to keep the money to themselves, basically, to keep the wealth to themselves? Or are we really at a stage in our evolution and development where it's time to let go of that, and it's time to start seeing things from a higher perspective, where we elevate, society, elevate the humanity to a point where we can all understand that we're on a shared path together, because there really is only one energy at work here. It's just fragmented into a gazillion different pieces, soul pieces, that are manifested into form. But this is literally we're all just part of the same essence, creative essence. And so in that regard, there really is only one essence. And we can fight and struggle, and we can make this all about the self and about the ego, or we can understand that greater message and allow the awareness ascension to happen while still in form. So anyhow, that's all I've got for today. I think we've done it for the week. Again, check out that rune divination if you want to, if you're interested. The forecast will go up here in a little while over on the blog, and the write-up for this, and this will also get posted over on Patreon. You can join me over there. It's $1 a month to do that if you want to do that. Otherwise, we'll meet again on Monday for another somewhat daily tarot and runes. So think about all of this. Think about how they all align together, and see how that resonates for you going forward. So with that, I will say have a good weekend, and be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.